You've been told to carry a 9mm, maybe a .45 if you're old school. But while everyone argues over those two, a monster has been hiding in plain sight. It hits harder, flies faster, and crushes barriers like they're paper. And the crazy part, most gun owners don't even consider it. That monster is the 10mm. So what makes this round so misunderstood, and why are more professionals quietly switching back to it? Let's break it down, starting with the one thing no caliber can fake: raw speed. High velocity transfer and energy retention. The 10mm auto delivers one of the flattest trajectories and hardest hits in the semi-auto pistol world. Fired from a full-size handgun like the Glock 20 or Springfield HD-M Elite, most factory loads push a 180-grain bullet between 1,250 and 1,400 feet per second. Lighter loads from Underwood or Buffalo Bore exceed 1,500 FPS, compared to 9mm's average 1,100 FPS. That's a major bump. Here's why it matters. Kinetic energy is proportional to mass, but it squares with velocity. So that extra 300 to 400 FPS doesn't just mean a harder hit, it translates into hundreds of additional foot-pounds of force. That gives 10mm a muzzle energy range between 600 and 750 foot-pounds, depending on the load, compared to roughly 350 for 9mm. That's close to .357 Magnum and even low-end .41 Magnum territory. This extra energy enhances tissue disruption and barrier penetration, especially through dense materials like denim, auto glass, or bone. Unlike slower rounds that might underperform when they meet resistance, 10mm tends to stay on course and deliver consistent wound track. And yet, people still dismiss it as too much. The irony, the so-called excess, is exactly what makes it worth a second look. Penetration and barrier performance. The 10mm auto was originally developed to outperform traditional service calibers in terms of both energy and reach, and nowhere is that more apparent than in its ability to penetrate. When tested using FBI's standardized ballistic protocols, properly loaded 10mm hollow points consistently achieve between 14 and 18 inches of penetration in calibrated 10% ballistic gelatin. This range meets the FBI benchmark for effective terminal performance, enough to reach vital organs even if the shot passes through clothing or an outstretched limb first. What makes the 10mm stand out is how it performs after encountering obstacles. In barrier testing, such as shooting through auto glass, sheet metal, or layered plywood, the 10mm maintains a straighter trajectory than many slower, lighter handgun rounds. This is largely due to its velocity and bullet weight combination, along with a higher sectional density. Sectional density refers to how well a projectile maintains momentum when moving through resistance. And in the case of a 10mm, it allows the bullet to continue its path with less yaw or deflection. For people living in rural areas or considering bear defense, this trait is critical. A 200-grain hard cast 10mm load can punch through thick hide, muscle, and bone, something lighter calibers can't guarantee. And for urban defense, the ability to pass through common cover materials without losing integrity could make the difference in a real emergency. And yet, penetration means nothing if you can't get back on target fast. That's where most people assume the 10mm falls apart, and that's where they're wrong. Recoil, control, and shot placement. Ask around and you'll hear it. The 10mm kicks too much. But modern loads and smarter handgun design have changed that. In today's market, most defensive 10mm ammunition is designed to be more controllable, often loaded to FBI spec velocities around 1150 to 1200 feet per second. These rounds generate a recoil impulse that's firm but far from unmanageable, especially when fired from a properly designed handgun. The actual recoil energy of a 180 grain 10 millimeter load traveling at 1,200 feet per second is around 8 to 10 foot-pounds. For context, that's more than a 9 millimeter, which averages 3 to 5 foot-pounds, but still below many Magnum revolver loads, which can push beyond 12 or 13. The difference is that most 10 millimeter pistols like the Glock 20 Gen 5, SIG P320 X10 or Springfield HDM Elite are full-size polymer frame and often weigh over 30 ounces unloaded. That added mass does a lot to tame recoil, reducing muzzle flip and helping maintain your sight picture between shots. With consistent training, shooters quickly adapt to the rhythm of 10 millimeter recoil. It's more of a smooth, rolling push than a jarring snap. And because the cartridge is chambered in platforms with excellent ergonomics and accessory support, it allows for better grip retention, faster recovery, and more accurate follow-up shots. At the end of the day, recoil can be managed. Shot placement, on the other hand, is non-negotiable, and that's where the 10 millimeter holds up just fine. Still, recoil management is only half the picture. What happens when you put those rounds into real ballistic gel? Wound channel and gel performance. You can talk energy and penetration all day, but when the round actually hits soft tissue, one thing matters. What kind of damage does it leave behind? In ballistic gel testing, the 10 millimeter consistently produces a massive temporary wound cavity, especially with modern hollow point loads like the Hornady XTP or Underwood's controlled expansion rounds. That cavitation means more shock to vital organs, more vascular trauma, and a higher likelihood of stopping the threat fast. In one set of tests using calibrated 10% ballistic gelatin, a 180 grain 10 millimeter hollow point produced a temporary stretch cavity over 4 inches wide, with penetration landing squarely in the FBI's ideal 14 to 16 inch window. That's textbook performance. And unlike rounds that tumble or fragment unpredictably, 10 millimeter defensive ammo often retains its shape, expands reliably, and continues through barriers with minimal deviation. Side by side with 9 millimeter and 40 S&W, the difference is visual. The crush cavity is larger, the expansion more dramatic, and the depth more consistent. This isn't an overpowered hunting round trying to play defense. It's a cartridge built for this role. But the real advantage starts to show when you factor in capacity, and that's where 10 millimeter flips the script on everything people assume about power calibers. Capacity and firepower balance. A common misconception about 10 millimeter auto is that choosing it means giving up capacity. That may have been true in the early days, but modern firearms have eliminated that trade-off. Today's leading 10 millimeter pistols come standard with magazine capacities comparable to 9 millimeter duty guns, 15 or even 16 rounds in many cases. That level of firepower used to be exclusive to small caliber pistols, but now it coexists with full power 10 millimeter performance. For instance, the Glock 20 Gen 5 holds 15 rounds in a double-stack configuration, while maintaining a frame size only slightly bulkier than the Glock 17. The SIG P320 X10 matches that capacity, offering a modular frame, striker-fired operation, and optics-ready slide, all features that make it ideal for modern defense setups. Springfield's XDM Elite 10 millimeter pushes even further, shipping with 16-round magazines and upgraded match barrels straight from the factory. By comparison, traditional Magnum revolvers chambered in .357 offer 6 shots and require more time to reload. A .45 ACP 1911 may carry 7 or 8 rounds unless modified with extended magazines. Even with the slightly larger footprint of some 10 millimeter pistols, the gain in total firepower is significant. Importantly, improvements in magazine design, recoil spring tuning, and frame ergonomics have made these platforms more manageable. Increased capacity doesn't have to come at the expense of shootability. With 10 millimeter, you're no longer choosing between power and capacity. You're getting both in a balanced, reliable package ready for real-world defense. Hunting capability and versatility. Most defensive calibers stop at two-legged threats. The 10mm goes further. With heavy loads and hard-cast bullets, it's one of the only semi-auto pistol rounds for hunting medium game, and in some cases even large predators. That's not hype, that's field data. Hunters in bear country routinely carry 10mm sidearms as backup to rifles. With the right ammo, it has enough penetration and energy to stop a charging hog or black bear at close range. The versatility lies in load selection. Defensive ammo like the Federal, HST, or Hornady Critical Duty delivers controlled expansion for home protection. Switch to Buffalo Bore, Underwood, or Double Tap, and you're launching 200-grain hard-cast, flat-nosed rounds at over 1,200 feet per second, ideal for breaking bone and punching deep. This dual-role capability makes 10mm unique. You can carry it for urban defense one day, then head into the wilderness with the same platform the next. No caliber swap, no gear change. Whether it's protection from a home intruder or a 400-pound boar, the 10mm gives you options. For outdoorsmen, preppers, or anyone who wants one pistol to do it all, this is the caliber that delivers. Ammo evolution and modern load development. The original 10mm loads from the 1980s were hot, sometimes too hot. That's what led the FBI to abandon the caliber after early adoption. But ammunition has come a long way since then. Today's 10mm offerings are purpose-built for defensive, hunting, and even suppressed use, giving shooters far more control over recoil, expansion, and penetration. Brands like Federal, Hornady, Sig Sauer, and Underwood now produce specialized 10mm loads that cover nearly every use case. For self-defense, you've got 180-grain jacketed hollow points that expand consistently, even through heavy clothing. For backcountry use, you can get 200-grain hard-cast bullets that won't deform when passing through thick bone or dense muscle. And for range training, companies offer lighter recoil FMJ rounds that still give you real-world performance without the punishment. Some loads are even optimized for shorter barrels, a common concern with full-power 10mm. These are designed to expand reliably even at lower velocities, making compact carry guns more viable. The result, a cartridge that can now be tailored for mission-specific use without compromising reliability or terminal effectiveness. The 10mm may have started a niche powerhouse, but today it's one of the most flexible cartridges on the shelf. Suppressed performance and indoor defense. You don't usually hear suppressed and 10mm in the same sentence, but that's starting to change. With the rise of threaded barrels and the availability of subsonic 10mm loads, suppressor use has become a practical option. And for home defense, that matters more than most people realize. Unprotected gunfire indoors can reach 160 decibels or more, enough to cause instant, permanent hearing damage. A suppressed 10mm running subsonic loads drops that significantly, often by 25 to 30 decibels, depending on the suppressor. That won't make it silent, but it could preserve your situational awareness in a chaotic scenario. Another overlooked benefit, flash reduction. Suppressors dramatically reduce muzzle flash, which is critical in low-light environments. A sudden burst of light in a dark room can kill your night vision even if the shot hits. Reduced flash means better visibility, better follow-up accuracy, less disorientation. Suppressors also tame recoil and help newer shooters stay on target. And while not every 10mm load plays well with subsonic speeds, several manufacturers now produce rounds specifically tuned for suppressed use, combining reliability with hearing-safe operation. In a real emergency, being able to see, hear, and shoot accurately, that's not tactical hype, that's survival. Cost, training, and practicality. One of the main knocks on the 10mm is cost, and while it's true that it's more expensive than 9mm, it's not the whole picture. Defensive-grade 10mm ammo often runs around $1.20 to $1.50 per round. But when you compare that to premium .357 Magnum 45 ACP plus P or boutique 9mm hollow points, the gap isn't as wide as it seems, and for those who reload, the savings are even more dramatic. Brass is easy to find, and load data is widely available for everything from light training rounds to full-power hunting loads. Even practicing with reduced recoil FMJ loads helps build recoil control and sight recovery, skills that transfer over to other calibers. And many platforms chambered in 10mm come in series with 9mm or 40 S&W variants, so the manual of arms remains the same. That means fewer bad habits, faster learning curves, and better muscle memory under stress. As for practicality, holsters, magazines, and spare parts are easier to find now than ever. The days of 10mm being a boutique, unsupported round are over. For serious shooters willing to train, the return on investment is real and is measurable. Platform diversity and cross-compatibility. The 10mm auto isn't tied to one pistol or one brand. In fact, one of its biggest strengths today is how many platforms support it. From striker-fired to hammer-fired, polymer to steel frame, and even revolvers, the options keep expanding. Take striker-fired models. Glock offers the G20, G29, and long slide G40 MOS. SIG has the P320 X10. Springfield's HDM Elite line features threaded barrels and optics-ready slides. Then you've got hammer-fired options like the Tanfoglio Witness and the Dan Wesson Razorback, giving 9/11 fans a Magnum-level experience with classic ergonomics. Revolvers, Ruger and S&W offer 10mm wheel guns like the GP100 Match Champion and 610. Many of which accept moon clips for quick reloads. You also get carbines like the Hi-Point 1095 or the TNW Aero Survival Rifle, both of which use Glock mags and provide rifle-length performance in compact packages. The biggest benefit? Magazine and holster compatibility across certain models. Many 10mm Glocks share mags with 40 S&W versions, and popular Kydex holsters often work for both with minimal fitment. For preppers, this means fewer logistical headaches. One mag, one pouch, one caliber. The real-world effectiveness. All of the numbers in ballistics are great on paper, but at the end of the day, what matters is what the 10mm actually does in the real world. And the record speaks for itself. Law enforcement agencies like the FBI's hostage rescue team and certain state troopers used it for years with solid results. Even today, wildlife officers in Alaska still rely on it as a sidearm option for bear country because they've seen it work. In civilian defensive shootings, documented cases show the 10mm delivering fast stops, even when facing multiple threats. The combination of speed, penetration, and expansion give it a real edge in unpredictable situations, especially when cover, thick clothing, or glass barriers are involved. It's not about overkill, it's about margin. The margin of stopping the threat with one or two well-placed shots. The margin of getting through barriers without losing velocity. The margin of performance when you only have seconds to act. That's why more serious shooters are reconsidering the round that was once considered too much, because today it might be exactly enough. Check out our next video where we reveal the deadliest .22 long rifle ammo you can legally buy in 2025.